These are mini potato Dauphinoise. People have asked for easier 1,000-layer potato ideas, so this is a lot easier. You just need a muffin pan, cupcake pan. We're going to melt some butter and add some garlic to it, and we're going to follow a similar recipe of mandolin and cream, but it's going to be a lot easier, a lot quicker, and we'll see if they taste better. First, we're just going to melt a stick of butter, add in 2 cloves of garlic. This is kind of a base for the pan, but then we're also going to add some cream to it. I'm just following a recipe I saw online, so I'm interested to see how this turns out. But it looked like it was a lot easier than the 1,000-layer potatoes, which a lot of people voiced that they were like, that's just too difficult for what you get, which I totally understand. So just going to melt down that butter with the garlic. Now we're going to peel the potatoes we need. I'm not going to make you watch me peeling this entire potato. You already know my views on that. Once that garlic and butter mixture melts down, we're going to dab it all over the inside of the muffin tin. This is just so the potatoes don't really stick. It also add a little bit of flavor. Once you're done with that, we're going to add about a 1/4 cup of cream into the pot. Mix that all up. This is going to go over the potatoes as kind of a, like a sauce to cook them in. It's very similar to kind of what we do with the 1,000-layer potatoes. But the difference between a Dauphinoise and a pave is the thickness of the potatoes per the internet. So we're going to do the thickest on my mandolin here. These are a good probably 1/8 of an inch thick, maybe a little less. We're also going to use some Gruyere cheese. It's going to go over the top. It's also going to go in between the middle of these layers. You do also want to try to make sure that your potatoes fit in the tin. So if you need to trim down the sides of the potatoes or get a larger tin or a smaller potato, go ahead. It's hard to keep that circular shape, but we're going to just use these little cubes of cheese, and see, that one doesn't fit in great, so we're going to try to find a smaller piece from the top or the bottom of the potato. Also, don't let that milk and cream butter mixture boil, so turn that heat off. I trim these up a little bit, start piling those up. Once you get about halfway, I'm going to take one of these blocks of Gruyere. I'm going to cut it in half so it's even thinner. Then I'm just going to lay that between these layers right about halfway up the tin. And then we're going to continue layering it with the rest of the larger potato slices. The higher up you get, obviously you can fit the middle round parts of the potato. So just try and fit the pieces in you can. If you need to trim them, it's totally fine. And now, do this for the rest of them. You want to go right to about the top of the tin. If you can go a little bit higher, that's also fine, because they'll kind of shrink into themselves as they cook. But now just go around and do the rest. Once you fill up one, just pour a little bit of that mixture over the top, though. That'll help in the cooking process, and just add a little bit of flavor, get a little bit of that garlic from the bottom, and then just lay that over the top. Now, as you see, I've done the rest here. Just trying to make these potato slices work. These were a little bit too large, so I'm just kind of pushing them down, but it turns out totally fine. They shrink, they mold. It's okay. Keep using that cheese, though. If you can get even thinner than I was able to get here, that's totally fine. I maybe should have used the mandolin to get in there, but it's that part I'll show you at the end. I don't really like the cheese in the middle. I'll show you why, but I don't think it's necessary. It's kind of the same as when I did the cheese in the 1,000-layer potato. I just don't think it worked great. But once you get those fully covered in the sauce, the next thing we're going to do is cover them in tin foil. Get that real nice and tight on there. Then we're going to throw this into an oven at 350 degrees Fahrenheit for right around 40 minutes. After 40 minutes, we're going to use the toothpick to test to see if they're good. Just stick it in. You want to make sure it slides in and out real easily. Sorry, I blocked it with my hand here, but it did slide in perfectly. No resistance. They're done. There is also a lot of grease in here, so you can empty some of that out. The cheese has grease. What you poured in has grease. It's just kind of a greasy dish, so just be aware of that. Now, after that 40 minutes, we're going to heat this back up to 350. We're going to do another 10 minutes with Gruyere shredded on the top of it. Don't cover it this time. Leave it completely exposed. I'm also going to move it up to the middle of the oven, so it's a little closer to that broiler on the top. And then you're good to go. That's it. So it's about 50 minutes total. Once these have been in there for another 10 minutes, you can see they're getting nice and golden brown on the top. They're still very greasy. So the first thing I'm going to do when I'm going to take these out right now is I'm actually going to put them onto a piece of paper towel and let some of that grease drain. You can use anything you want to pop these out of the tin. They're going to be fairly compact. The difference between this and the 1,000 layers, you didn't press them. So the layers are somewhat looser. So do be very careful, but you see they do stick together fairly well. The cheese has melted, which helps. But I'm just going to take those out, throw them onto a paper towel. It's nice and golden brown, so that's perfect. And I'm going to let those sit for about 2-3 minutes, just so some of the excess oil comes off. You can see how much is left over in that muffin tin there. But that's it. These are totally done. Throwing these onto a plate here just so you could see them. They are very different in a way than the 1,000-layer potatoes, but also very similar. They're looser. They are not as crispy because you're not deep frying them, so make sure your potato is fully cooked in the oven. There's no other cooking time here. But they do look beautiful. I think the Gruyere cheese is a really nice contrast for the potato. The longer you let these cool down, the easier they will be to cut. They won't slide as much, but these are nice and piping hot. So you cut into it, pull it apart. You can see that layer there where the cheese was. It just slides apart. So if you didn't have that cheese in the middle, they would hold their shape a lot better. So I don't know if you need to do that, but it still is pretty tasty. These are overall, I think, real good. I don't think they're better than the first version of the 1,000-layer potatoes, but as their own much quicker, easier side, definitely give these a try. They're cheesy, they're delicious. They're not as great as 1,000-layer potatoes, but for how quick and easy they are way up there. So A+.